But you're not gonna be hot forever. As long as you, during your time when you was hot, you made a lot of hit songs, you'll be able, those hit songs, people gonna play them songs for the rest of their life.
Over a month ago, we had a conversation about why Lil Baby isn't popular anymore. A conversation that's been relevant for quite some time now. Since then, he's dropped his 4th studio album, and with that release, there's even more to unpack about the current state of his career. So today I want to take a closer look at where Lil Baby stands right now and what his future in the rap game might look like. At this point, I'm sure most people are familiar with Lil Baby. Born Dominic Jones, the 30-year-old rapper from Atlanta first made waves in early 2018 with his breakout hit, Yes Indeed, featuring Drake. That record helped him launch into mainstream success, setting the stage for what could become one of the most dominant runs in modern trap rap. Ever since then, Lil Baby has made a crazy impact on a rap game. He's quickly established himself as one of the most dominant voices in modern trap rap, constantly dropping hit records and solidifying his place in hip-hop with his 2020 release, My Turn. Over the years, he's built an impressive catalog, releasing a bunch of successful projects, proving his ability to create both street anthems and mainstream hits. Ever since 2020, the peak of his career, there's been an ongoing conversation about where Lil Baby is headed. Over the past few years, signs of decline have started to show, from the underwhelming reception to his recent music, to moments like him canceling multiple stops.
Well, it's obvious. He's a phenomenal artist. He's a great rapper. He's a great lyricist. And when you compare him to other lyricists of his generation, he's a way better lyricist than most of his peers. The issue is that he's continuing to use auto-tune all the time. And what auto-tune does is it makes him sound the same in every song. Why? Because auto-tune is robotic. Auto-tune is a computer trying to correct your mistakes so that you sound perfect. Trying to basically make you have perfect pitch. That's what's called auto-tune, because it's supposed to automatically make you have the correct tune. But it gives everybody that robotic sound. And that robotic sound has a tendency to be very repetitive, and that gets boring over time.
On his 2023 tour, as his dominance in the rap game has started to become less intense, the question remains, is Lil Baby falling off? Lil Baby is clearly not as popular as he once was, but where exactly does he fit into hip-hop today? On January 3rd, he dropped his 4th studio album, Wham! Or Who Hard Is Me?, the follow-up to It's Only Me. The reception to this project was particularly interesting for a couple reasons. First, it highlighted just how divided people are on Lil Baby these days. While some people might support him, others feel like his music has become very repetitive and the hype surrounding his name isn't what it once used to be. In my previous video about Lil Baby, we talked about how, despite his success in the rap industry, Lil Baby isn't an artist with a deeply loyal, tight-knit fan base like many of his peers. One possible reason for that is his approach to public engagement. For much of his career, Lil Baby has been one of those rappers who benefited from a level of mystique. He rarely spoke outside of the music. The only times we really got to hear him open up were during major interviews like his appearances on The Breakfast Club. Even then, Lil Baby always came across as very reserved, calculated, and somewhat distant, and he never really offered too much insight into his personal thoughts or personality.
But how I look at it, like, far as as long as I do what's right before it's too late,
Right.
Meaning, and it's almost to that stage. Like, my little boy only 2.
But beyond that, Baby just wasn't very open. He was clearly still adjusting to his newfound fame, the lifestyle, and the reality of going from poverty to having millions almost overnight. Just a few years before his big break, he was hustling full-time in the streets and eventually got sentenced to 2 years in prison on weapons and drug charges. So when he first entered rap, he wasn't coming in as someone eager to share his story. He was still getting used to, the shift from the life he knew to the one he was suddenly living. So it's no surprise that on a personal level, he often came across as disconnected. He comes from a harsh background where survival was the priority, not opening up or being vulnerable. But lately, it seems like Lil Baby is making more of an effort to show the world who he really is. We've seen him in more interviews, giving insight into his mindset and experiences. One of the most telling moments was a conversation with Lil Yachty, where he openly admitted to having fears about the energy he puts into his music, eventually catching up to him, like it caught up to some of his peers.
Now I gotta watch what I say, I gotta watch what I do, because I'm watching how society trying to do rappers. I understand why they trying to do it, because some rappers for everybody. And it's like, damn, now I'm in this pool. So it's like harder for me to just go in there and rap how I used to rap. I watch Young Thug try every day. I seen him, you really use stuff against him that don't got nothing to do with nothing.
And this is one of the reasons why I think his music doesn't hit the same anymore, right? He has way more to lose, so.
It's crazy how nowadays as an artist, artistry, you can write a movie script, that's an artist too. We know rappers are artists. We know singers are artists. We know people who paint are artists, right? People who write movie scripts write all type of crazy scenes and everything like that. and they just label it as fiction. I wish there was a way that rappers can like label their art, their bars, their music, their songs, their albums as fiction. But that the problem is they get a lot of their fame and clout off of people believing that they are as tough and as, you know what I'm saying, as basically as tough as they portray in the songs. They don't separate themselves from the songs. A lot of them even brag that the things they say in the songs is the things that they actually, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them brag about it. So there has to be a way with all the stuff that has gone on with people getting in trouble for their lyrics and things like that. There has to be a way where somebody could say that they can categorize themselves as a fictional rapper, where nothing they say is true. It's just they just enjoy the idea of just, you know, just making art, and then an actual artist who actually wants to use that form of art to talk about real stuff in their life. I think it should be a way that music artists, or especially particularly rap artists, should be able to make that distinction, because singers half the time don't even write their bars. People who sing, like Beyonce, she's singing stuff that someone else wrote. So can she go to jail for it because she's singing it? No, I would assume not, because that's not her writing. So I wish, I don't say I wish, but it would make more sense if rappers had that option to say, oh no, they're a fictional rapper, you know? So that they don't get in trouble.
There's a difference between making street music when you're still in that environment versus when you've made millions and elevated beyond it. If you've been paying attention to Lil Baby has been, actively stepping away from being solely viewed as a street rapper. That's not something he really leans on anymore, right? Now, like I touched on in my last video about him, people want to hear more from the person behind the actual music. The whole mysterious street rapper image doesn't work as well in this era as it used to. Audiences are different now. They want personality, relatability, and engagement. And let's be real, a big percentage of the people who listen to rappers like Lil Baby aren't, actually from the streets, right? A lot of them are white kids who see these artists as a window into what they think being black is like. It's not a bunch of street ninjas buying his albums and streaming his music. And by now, Lil Baby has realized that. Knowing his core audience isn't who he originally thought it was has probably taken a lot of pressure off of him. He doesn't have to keep up that same front, which is why we're starting to see him relax and open up even more.
Corn star.
Wow, you're a professional. You said core, you pervert. You pervert. Absolute pervert.
This was literally the first time in my 6 to 7 years of knowing who Lil Baby is that I've seen him genuinely laugh on camera. And that was a recent interview he did with Caleb Presley. For an artist like Lil Baby, whose music has always had a more one-dimensional style, I think he now has to rely more on showing off his personality and embracing that side of himself. The music alone isn't, enough to keep him relevant anymore. This is exactly why so many street rappers end up losing relevancy. At a time where street rap has lost a lot of its authenticity, audiences are looking for more than just lyrics about the trenches. They want to connect with the person behind the music. Lil Baby is also paying more.
They also want to see the rapper evolve. Like, nobody has a problem if that's where you come from, you're rapping about it. We're going to hear those stories over and over again. We're going to hear it again, right? But when you've been in a successful rapper for 7 years straight, 2018 to 2025, that's 7 years. You've been a successful rapper for 7 years straight, and you came in the rap industry at age 23, and now you're 30 years old. People you have to understand, your fans are also getting older too. The fans that were 18 years old when they first listened to you 7 years later, now they're 25 years old. They don't want to hear about that same stuff. They got bills to pay. They got things that they're evolving. They got other interests that other things that interest them. Things are different. You have to evolve as an artist, because your audience is, as you're getting older, your audience is also getting older as well. And I don't think a lot of them realize that.
Attention to the reception of his music now. He's not as insulated as he used to be, and a good example of that is when Kai Cenat gave his project, Who Hard Is Me, a 6 out of 10.
Out of 10, first listen, I might have to go 6.5, bro.
Now, Lil Baby actually ended up responding to this rating by Kai Cenat by saying the following.
Kai Cenat had reviewed the project. Were you able to see that review, and what did you think of it?
I seen like little clips of it, but people like Castanet, I feel like they like younger. You know, like they ain't gonna really to understand how I'm coming. You kind of gotta be a little older to get it.
Who do you think is like the right age demographic?
That's something that's like changed anyway, cause I never would think no age demographic good to like rate music unless you're like a music person. The screamers and the people who like do reviews is like they personal opinion. They know nothing about music for real.
So
He wouldn't. I don't think he'd be saying that if they was giving them all 10s. They was all saying, oh, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. He'd be like, yeah, man, you know. I feel like, I don't even have to feel like, we know that Lil Baby's comments will be totally different.
you're an artist who still like respects the opinion of a music pundit or like a journalist or someone who's.
I respect everybody's opinion. Everybody got opinion. See, that's a part of like the new generation. I don't even have that when I first started dropping it. You might got one or two people who do like reviews, you know what I'm saying? Now it's like more of a, I don't know what to call it, what it be now though. I could honestly see it be like, it's just like to go viral. I see people post like they hate a song, but they still playing the song.
And so that's kind of what you've stopped paying as much attention to.
I ain't never paid attention to that type, but now I just see it more. But I never paid attention to it, whether if it was a great review or not. I don't look at stuff like that. Not saying for me, I'm saying for anybody. Like I never go and watch somebody else review an album. I'm gonna listen to the album and feel how I feel, you know?
Responding in this manner isn't something you see often from a rapper who's considered a street artist. Lil Baby obviously now understands how powerful narratives are. And right now, the perception that he's quote-unquote fallen off is growing. Take Kai Cenat giving his album a 6 out of 10, for example. That only fuels the idea that Lil Baby is an...
Yo, big shout out to Kai Cenat for keeping it 100 and giving it a 6.5 out of 10. He could have easily gave it an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, but he didn't do that. And the crazy thing is he knows all the celebrities, so he has the incentive to lie because he knows these people. You know, it's easier to criticize somebody you don't know, but to criticize somebody that you do know, and you know they can hit you up on your phone and call you, bro, why you give me a 6.5 out of 10? What's wrong with you? And then also too, the more mainstream these live streamers get, the less I trust them, because now they're a celebrity too, so they're not gonna keep it real. The only people who keep it real is content creators and live streamers who are not mainstream. But you know, I was surprised he actually kept it 100, so that's good.
Anymore. In the past, he might have ignored something like that, but now he's more open to pushing back and speaking on these things. Even though when a lot of people see him, you know, speaking on things like this, they're gonna look at him and say, damn, Lil Baby is, you know, sensitive. He's corny now, because that's a very big shift from how he used to show up and operate as a person. And that's been the general vibe surrounding Lil Baby's recent album. Based on overall consensus, most people didn't really like it, but his core fans, they really enjoyed it. And honestly, I'm definitely a part of that demographic because I like Lil Baby. And I've actually had this album on repeat. I did not think it was bad at all. Like, there's a lot of songs that I'm going back to over and over again. The intro, by the way, like one of the best intros I've heard in a while. Good, solid intro. Now, the project ended up selling over 140,000 in its first week, which is an incredible number.
Who is still buying albums these days? The heck, man? I don't get that. Like, people literally still buy albums. Well, you could just go on YouTube and listen to it, or just, you know what I'm saying? Or go on Spotify, listen to it, or Apple Music or something.
The fact that Lil Baby is still pulling well over 100K after all these years in the game proves one thing. While he may not be as popular as he once was, he clearly hasn't fallen off. It also speaks to his pull. At the end of the day, numbers like these don't just happen by accident. I'd say, generally speaking, these sales were fueled by how big of a brand the Lil Baby name is in the game. And of course, in today's streaming era, sales and streams go hand in hand, so at this point they're basically the same thing. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this album was a step up from his last project, but one thing I did appreciate about this project was its consistency. It did have a cohesive sound throughout. That being said, I think half the album was solid, while the other half could probably disappear and I wouldn't think twice about it. Lil Baby's going through the same thing Polo G has been criticized for, sticking too closely to a formulaic sound. And for most rappers who blew up off of one particular style, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to stick what they know best. Of course, artistic growth is important at every stage, but people have a habit of wanting artists to switch up things way too soon. which is something that reminds me of something that Rick Rubin actually said, which is the audience doesn't really know what they want, or I think he said that the consumer comes last.
You know, one of the things I say in the book is the audience comes last. And the audience comes last, not because I don't care about them or I don't like the audience. In service to the audience, they have to come last. Yeah. The thing that the audience wants is the best thing they can get. If we're trying to make it for them, it won't be the best thing it can get. It'll water it down. The process of making something for someone else undermines it.
What's funny is as soon as these artists actually do change up their sound, the same people who told them to evolve start complaining. It's a cycle that happens with almost every rapper at this point. For Lil Baby, one of the things that could keep him relevant is leaning more into that pop side of rap. And to be clear, I'm not talking about watering down his music. I mean strategically surrounding himself with pop stars and collaborating with those types of artists more. Tapping into that crossover appeal would allow him to stay relevant beyond just the rap scene. If he played into that lane a little more, while keeping his authenticity intact, it could extend his career and bring in a whole new wave of listeners. Kind of like how DaBaby collabed with Dua Lipa. That ended up taking DaBaby's name to a whole nother level. Lil Baby could do something similar, but beyond just one-off collaborations, he might need to actively surround himself with those types of artists and become a part of their network. That way he could position himself as a go-to feature rapper for big pop records, which is something a lot of street rappers don't do enough of. There's two reasons why they don't do it. The first reason is obvious. A lot of these pop stars don't really want to surround themselves with street rappers. But if you're someone who has a lot of personality and you're very likable and you're not leaning into that street image a lot, then they're not going to have an issue with it. And another reason is because, rappers like Lil Baby kind of hesitate to go that route because they feel like they have to maintain that street perception to stay respected. Or should I say, quote unquote respected. And I say that because, once you make it to a certain level, keeping that perception intact doesn't really matter anymore. Or let's just say that it shouldn't matter. I think it's crucial when you're coming up, when you're still building your brand and crafting that image. But as you elevate, especially when you become a household name like Lil Baby, one of the most underrated things you could do is go fuck with the pop stars. And this is how you survive, quite literally. Honestly, you surround yourself too much with these rappers, like Lil Durk is a good example, and you might mess around and have the FBI kicking down your door, and then comes Mr. Rico, guilty by association, if you will. The smart rappers create a little bit of that distance, and this is something Lil Baby is definitely doing for sure. I mean, that's why he was saying all those things in that interview with Lil Yachty. He's like, damn, I'm seeing Thug and them getting locked up. Man, I don't want that to happen to me. Honestly, Lil Baby's a very intelligent guy, and I think that's something people don't give him enough credit for. He's proven that he can adapt to the ever-changing landscape of the industry and the rap game in general. Sure, he's had his hiccups in the business, but overall, he's made a lot of smart moves. He's shown that he's tapped in and has his finger on the pulse, especially in 2020 when he dropped The Bigger Picture. Is bigger than black and white. I really wish Lil Baby had continued on that path, at least for a couple more records, because that song was really powerful. It wasn't just a good record. It felt like an important moment, honestly. Seeing him in that light was very refreshing, I gotta say. And it showed that he had the potential to be more than just another street rapper. I thought this was a major move.
Yeah, I was surprised he actually made something so conscious like that, because you never hear him rap about anything like that. And for that to be, a lot of times conscious rap is not considered in hip hop. It's not considered cool, right? It's music for the intellectuals, right? But not on the mainstream level. Ain't nobody really listen to conscious rap because people ain't really trying to think like that. So for Lil Baby to make that song, and for it to be conscious and him to really be addressing certain things, and for it to be mainstream, that was very interesting. How people were receptive to that, and they liked the song.
Move on his part. But there have been, some low-key conversations about whether or not he had a ghostwriter for that song. Personally, I don't know if this is true. I don't think so, but I get why people bring it up. He delivered The Bigger Picture type of song once, and then he never followed up with anything in that same lane again. So who knows? Maybe there's some truth to it, or maybe he just wanted to do it once. Despite everything we talked about, I think Lil Baby is going to be around for a while. Most of it having to do with his proven track record of consistently showing up. And that's something I don't think people give him enough credit for. Just the fact that he's kept showing up goes a long way, because he could have very much completely disappeared after 2022. But obviously he still got the hunger, he still got the fire in his belly, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we're still talking about him today. The conversation surrounding his name is still happening, and that goes a long way as well. Overall, I personally still listen to Lil Baby, and when it comes to the state of his career, I think he's at a crossroads. He's not as dominant as he was in 2020, but he's still a big name in the industry. Will Lil Baby double down on what's worked for him in the past, or will he take risks and push himself in new directions? Either way, Lil Baby isn't gone. He's still gonna be here. But where he goes from here will determine whether he cements himself as a long-term force in hip-hop or just another artist who had a strong run and then plateaued.
It really ain't gonna be much of an issue. Lil Baby's gonna be around for a long time. Why? Because all I gotta do is look at the people before him, like Snoop Dogg and all these other different type of artists who aren't as relevant anymore, but they're still relevant because they can still tour off of their old songs and still get money. Like Waka Flocka still, from my understanding, still tours and gets money from his songs he made back in 2008. You can't be hot forever unless you're Drake. I used to say that, and obviously that's not the situation anymore. But you're not gonna be hot forever. As long as you, during your time when you was hot, you made a lot of hit songs, you'll be able, those hit songs, people gonna play them songs for the rest of their life. You're gonna have to leverage that. But he'll be good. He'll be good.